Hey everybody, welcome back. Thank you for coming and joining the Nashville Native. It's Tuesday, so you know what that means. Another podcast coming your way. We've got a good show for you today. I'm your host, Justin Hawkins. If you haven't already, please follow along on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Subscribe, comment, anything to get in touch. I'm your man. All right, so we've got a pretty good show for you. We're going to start off with some sad news out of Mississippi State in the form of Mike Leach, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But after that, we got the Tennessee Titans, and we break down their loss on Sunday against the Jacksonville Jaguars. We got the best moment of the week, and then we have a little bit of the Nashville Predators. So you don't want to miss it. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so briefly, we're going to start with some tragic news out of Mississippi State. It's the passing of legendary head coach Mike Leach. He passed away this morning after suffering a heart condition over the weekend, a heart attack or stroke, and he just couldn't overcome the complications. I've seen plenty on Twitter about him fighting for his life or he needing a miracle, and ultimately he could not overcome. So he's passed away this morning. And my thoughts and prayers go out to him, his family, and all those that are affected, Mississippi State, Starkville community, really the football world, the sports world. He made a huge impact on the game. And, you know, one thing, if you can ever think about who Mike Leach is, you can always be sure that he is good for a good quote. You know, you never know what he's going to say in the post-game, pre-game interviews. He had a mind of his own. He was his own person, and he was a legend for that. And so I will always remember him. I was shocked this morning when I heard the news. I'm sure that many of you were. If you've not heard of the news, I just wanted to share it with you on my podcast today. So, like I said, my thoughts and prayers out to him, his family, and all that was involved. All right, so moving on back to the Nashville Native. All right, we've got the Tennessee Titans. They lost at home. I was there, unfortunately. They lost at home to the Jacksonville Jaguars, the lowly Jacksonville Jaguars, that is. They were 4-8 coming into the game. The Titans were 7-5. The AFC South Division was looking great. It looked like a one-man race. And ultimately, they got embarrassed. I don't know how many of you watched it, but it was embarrassing. You know, the first quarter was great. You know, Derrick Henry ran for 96 yards in just the first quarter alone. What did he have the rest of the game? That's a different story. He finished the game with 119 yards rushing. Now, he did get a touchdown. That was part of the first quarter. But 96 yards rushing in just the first quarter and then almost 30 the rest of the way. That's terrible gamemanship there. The defense couldn't stop anything. Okay? Yes, Trevor Lawrence is a great quarterback. You know, he had a up and down rookie season, but look, he was there with Urban Meyer, so that was a disaster anyways. But moving on into this year, he got a head coach in Doug Peterson, who is a Super Bowl winning head coach, that is. He's great with developing quarterbacks and developing a good offense. And that's what he's doing in Jacksonville. Jacksonville's actually lost, you know, of the 8 games, about half of them have at least come to one score or less games. So they have been in it, and like I said, they have a good offense. Their defense is a little bit suspicious, or not suspicious, but a little bit lackluster. But the Titans really couldn't do much. They couldn't really do what they wanted to. Their game plan in the first quarter was great. You know, they were passing the ball effectively. They were running the ball effectively. They were doing things effectively. But after that, it was a Jaguars game, and the Titans just checked out of it. It looked like they checked out of it right before halftime. But the story of the game really comes down to the turnovers. 4 of them. 1 was a fumble by Tannehill, 2 fumbles by Derrick Henry, and then finally an interception by Tannehill. All 4 of those could have been easily avoided. The Tannehill was a strip sack because Dennis Daly got blown up. Stop me if you've heard that before. Okay, the second fumble was Derrick Henry, and at the end of the half, at the end of the first half, he went down, caught the ball, ran for a first down, and all he had to do really is get out of bounds or go down or whatever, but the guy punched it out, and then he fumbled it inbounds, and Jacksonville recovered it. The third turnover was the interception by Tannehill. His intended target was Nick Westbrook-Akine, so I don't know how many of you saw it, but it literally went straight to the defender. Nick Westbrook-Akine didn't even turn around to see the ball. So there was obviously some kind of miscommunication there. I don't know if the pocket was breaking down, so he had to get rid of it earlier, which, of course, that was partly the case all game. That was partly the case all season, really, because his pocket, he just does not have time to throw the ball like he used to. Now, look, we know the O-line issues. It is what it is to this point. Now it's about how do you get past that and move on and have success? They found somewhat success winning 7 games this year, but they're on a 3-game losing streak now. And the last 2 games were not good showings. Now, of course, you lost just by 4 points to the Cincinnati Bengals 3 weeks ago at home. So, that they're a really good team. They're led by Joe Burrow, and they have good receivers. They have a pretty good, okay defense. But they have a really good offense, and you played well against them. Okay, you were in the game the whole entire time. It came down to the end of the game. Philadelphia, different story. Embarrassed in Philadelphia. Jacksonville, embarrassed at home. The defense, they just could not do anything. The sore spot on this Titans team has become 2 things: the offensive line and the cornerback situation. That was on full effect on Sunday afternoon in Nashville. Trevor Lawrence did whatever he wanted to. He knew that he couldn't run the ball, as was the fact that Travis Etienne couldn't even get over 50 yards rushing in the game. He knew that he couldn't run the ball. So you know what he did? He decided he would pass the ball all day long, and he did it effectively. Okay? His tight end, Evan Ingram, who's not one of the highest or best tight ends in the league, he did whatever he could. 11 catches, 162 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The Titans are known for their lack of coverage in the receiving end, but really, they're known for giving up big games to tight ends. It seems like the only tight end in the league that they do play well against is the best tight end, which is Travis Kelce. They always tend to double him, triple him, whatever, to slow him down. But it seems like everybody else, the tight ends just go nuts. And that's exactly what happened. The other receivers, Zay Jones had a good game. He had a questionable touchdown but it was reviewed, but it was upheld. It actually was a good touchdown. But the Titans couldn't do anything on defense. They couldn't stop them other than the run. Trevor Lawrence could run. He himself could scramble and run the ball if he wanted to, but he just passed all over the place. He did whatever he could, and he showed why he was the number 1 pick in the NFL draft last year, and he certainly played like it. He looked like it, and he looked like he could give the AFC South some run for its money in the next several years under that rookie contract, and even further, if that's the case. The Titans just did not look like they're the number 1 team in the AFC South yet on Sunday. It is what it is. We have to look at it. We have to deal with it. But, there were some bright spots. Like I said, Derrick Henry, 96 yards in the first quarter. You have to keep building on that. Okay? That comes down to, in my opinion, I get the fumbles. It's nobody else's fault other than the player on the fumbles. But I'm going to harp on this every week, basically until it happens, is Todd Downing just needs to go. His play calling is very suspect. Okay? Yes, like I said, it's not his fault that the players fumbled the ball or intercepted the ball. But these plays that he's calling, he's not getting out of his players that he possibly could. He's not getting the best out of them that he possibly could. And I firmly believe that. I think a little bit of, more balance, or, if Derrick Henry is running the ball well, why not continue to go through that? Why go away from the run game and he only gets like 20 yards more the rest of the game? That's unbelievable. That is just, you can't have that from your offensive coordinator. Now look, Amy Adams-Strunk last week, she proved that she's willing to fire anybody and everybody as long as it takes to win a Super Bowl. Amy, fire Todd Downing. Fire Craig Aukerman, the special teams guy. Fire these coaches that are doing nothing for this team. They are not helping this team at all. So if you want to fire your general manager, who has gotten you 6 straight winning seasons, on to a 7th, 4 straight playoff berth, or a possible 3 straight AFC South titles, go fire the people who are not creating benefited, wins or or players, they're not getting the results on the field. And these coaches are to partial blame for it. I get the players are as well, and that have to do also with why John Robinson is no longer here. But you have to look yourself in the mirror and get rid of the people who are not benefiting this team. Speaking of benefits, there is one player, though, who is really come up the last few weeks, and his name is Chig Okonkwo, the rookie tight end that we drafted out of Maryland. The Titans did in this past draft, and he has really been coming on this last few weeks. And he is the result of our best moment of the week. All right, so Chig Okonkwo, he had a touchdown in this game, his first touchdown as a Tennessee Titan. Like I said, he is a rookie, first round or a third, fourth round draft pick out of Maryland. There were other tight ends that we could have drafted, but Chig Okonkwo ultimately fell to us in the later rounds or mid rounds of the NFL draft, and he is very dynamic. He is what this Titans team needs. He's very similar to, he's a little bit smaller of John O. Smith that the Titans had a few years ago. Like I said, not as built as big, but he's very physical. He runs hard, and he's a big play waiting to happen. It's exactly what John O. Smith did. Like just right there, he had his one-handed 2-point conversion. Great play. If I'm the Titans, if I'm Todd Downing, if I'm Mike Vrabel, I'm making it a for sure thing to get him more involved each week, and because he is actually one of the only receivers, not named a receiver, that is getting plays. He's getting open. He's making plays. So Chig had his best receiving game as a Titan, or at least in form of targets and receptions, with 6 catches. He had the touchdown that I mentioned. He had the 2-point conversion, and he had 45 yards receiving. This man is on his way up, people. Austin Hooper and Chig Okonkwo are becoming a great tight end duo for the Tennessee Titans, but you know what? They just don't have the receivers to back it up. So Okonkwo has been doing great. You just have to keep him more involved. This goes back to why Todd Downing needs to be held more accountable, because he's not getting the right players the ball. Derrick Henry goes 96 yards and then tails off. Chig Okonkwo, he's not getting consistent plays, but also how often were the Titans on defense? It was a terrible 36-24 score, or 36-22 score, and the Titans just didn't do enough. They just didn't do enough. And it was evident. So the biggest thing now is, can the Titans secure the AFC South? And as I sit here today on December the 13th, a Tuesday, December 13th, with 4 games left in the regular season, Chargers are up next, going to LA. I don't know I'm not 100% certain that the Titans are going to win the AFC South. It looked like a lock last week. This week, a much different story. When you lose to a lowly divisional rival like the Jacksonville Jaguars, the odds of you winning that division definitely go down. But the way that they have been losing, the Titans have been losing the past 3 weeks, it's a little concerning. It is a little concerning, and it's something to monitor, obviously. But, are the Titans going to win the AFC South? I do believe so. Are they going to lose in the playoffs? Probably. I don't see them winning in the playoffs, but, they always say, you get into the dance, anything can happen. And yes, anything can happen. You can go look at 2019. The Titans were 9-7. They just limped into the playoffs, and what happened? You beat Tom Brady at home, then you go into Baltimore, you beat Lamar Jackson, and then you go into Kansas City and you lose, and you're very competitive for half the game. So anything can happen. They can put it together at the right time. But as far as, the team goes, they've got a big test coming up on Sunday against LA Chargers. They need to win. This is a must-win situation if you want to have any positive outlook on the rest of the season. Now, look, the defense is still missing Danico Autry. They were also without Christian Fulton on Sunday. So they're obviously missing key people. But, look, this is the story all season, and there's got to be a fine ground with this. What's with all the injuries? I mentioned this a few weeks ago about the special, the strength and conditioning and the nutrition people. They should be held accountable. I said Amy needs to look at people and start either getting rid of people or holding people accountable. They need to as well. The injuries are tallying up week in and week out, year after year, and it is time to stop. It is time to have a healthy roster on a Sunday. I mean, it is getting ridiculous. Now, sometimes you can't help it. The NFL is called a 100, or it does have a 100% injury rate for a reason. Now, I get that, but still, Danico Autry was out yet again. Hopefully can come back either this coming week or the next week after that. It's a big test coming up on Sunday against the LA Chargers in LA. Something the Titans don't do normally well at is go in the West Coast and win some games. So the Chargers come off a Monday Night Football game in which they beat the Miami Dolphins. I'm sorry, it was Sunday Night Football. They beat the Miami Dolphins. It was a battle of quarterbacks really, and the wide receiver weapons. The Chargers, it always seems like people get healthy when they play the Titans, and that's exactly what it is. They do have injuries on the defense, but their offense, they had Keenan Allen back, they had Mike Williams back, and then they have, of course, Justin Herbert as their quarterback and Austin Eckler as the running back, which is very dynamic. He can run down your throat, he can be in the passing game, he can do whatever you need him to do, and then they have those great wide receivers like I mentioned. So the Titans are going to have a big test when it comes to the Chargers offense versus the Titans defense. Can they hold up? If it's anything like this past Sunday, it's going to be another long, grueling watch. And do I think that they can win? Of course I think they can win. The Titans do, on paper, have a pretty good team. But it depends on where their head is at, what kind of distractions they have going on, and the injuries. Who's going to show up on Sunday? Who's going to make that plane trip to LA? That remains to be seen. Like I said, hopefully Christian Fulton should be getting back this week. You don't have David Long. He went on IR. So you don't have him for at least 3 more games. Zach Cunningham's still on IR. So you have backup linebackers. Monty Rice showed up. He played okay. Of course, your other Trey Avery didn't play either. And so it was a poor showing by the defense. They need to have a bounce-back game, and what a week to do it other than this coming week when you have a high-power offense that would love to just throw it down your throat. So the Titans are going to need a big game coming up on Sunday, and they need to get back in the win column. Otherwise, like I said, this AFC South division is going to come down to the last week. And like I said, I think the Titans can win, but it's not 100% certain like I said last week. So here we are. Let's see what happens. Hopefully we're talking about a win next Tuesday. So stay tuned for that game. All right, now let's move to the Nashville Predators. This is the last topic we're going to talk about today because there's really nothing else going on in the sports world. I mentioned Mike Leach. We got the Tennessee Titans. I did my best moment of the week with Chika Okonkwo. Now, let's talk about the Nashville Predators. They had 2 games since our last show. They played the Tampa Bay Lightning, and then they played the Ottawa Senators on Saturday. And then they played last night against the Blues. So they had 3 games. They lost all 3. Now, one of them was in overtime. But this Predators team is really frustrating. One word, frustrating. They are just very frustrating. They go on this big, long 6-1-1 streak, and, they look like they're coming back up in the standings, and then, bam, they go right back down. Losing, 6-2, 5-2 to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Let me look it up real quick. But, they didn't do very good. Yeah, 5-2 against the Tampa Bay Lightning, 3-2 Saturday at home against the Ottawa Senators, and then they followed up going to St. Louis, losing 1-0 in overtime. I mean, it's very frustrating to see how they're showing up week in and week out, or day in and day out, game by game. I mean, it's just, you don't know what team you're going to play or what team you're going to watch. That's why I made the comment last week about, Tennessee weather is so up and down, you never know what you're going to get on a given day. That's exactly what the Tennessee Titans and the Nashville Predators are. You just don't know. So, when the Preds come up and they play their next couple games, which is the Oilers at home tonight. Every time we play the Edmonton Oilers, it's embarrassing. I think the last time was 6-3. So, we play them tonight. Cross your fingers for that one, but that you don't get too embarrassed. And then on Thursday, you play the Winnipeg Jets. go to Winnipeg, and then Saturday you play the Colorado Avalanche. So you've got a really tough schedule coming up in the next 3 to 4 games. Can the Preds overcome that? I do not think so. They don't have a roster that's good enough. They don't skate the fastest. They're not that physically imposing team that they used to be. UC Saros is still having struggles. You don't know what goalie's showing up. You don't know what defense is showing up. Now they do have injuries that you just, like I said, like mentioned with the Titans, there's injury rates that you just can't avoid. But sometimes injuries just come at the wrong time. And for the Predators right now, injuries or frustrations, they're coming at the wrong time. This past week, the GM David Poile decided he was going to waive and send Eeli Tolvanen back down to Milwaukee. He hasn't been down there in a couple years. And by doing that, now that he's no longer on his entry-level contract, by doing that, sending him to Milwaukee, he gets put on waivers. And, of course, a high-profile draft pick in 2017, a first-round pick, he hasn't quite clicked in Nashville, and now he's on his way to Seattle. So he is no longer in the Nashville Predators organization. So Eeli Tolvanen, it was nice to have you. You didn't do all that much for the Nashville Predators, but he couldn't make the lineup. It was about 2 years ago when COVID really hit. He seemed like he was going to be the savior of the franchise. He had all those power play goals or power play points, and then the year after that, he just followed up with a straight dud, and he was in and out of the lineup, healthy scratches. And when he came into the NHL, when he got drafted, he immediately went into the Russian highest professional league of the KHL, played for Jokerit, and he was lighting that league on fire. So, obviously Nashville Predators fans were taking to Twitter. They were taking all kinds of social media. It was like, bring Eeli Tolvanen back, bring him back, bring him back. And they did. They brought him for the playoffs, I believe, but he didn't really do anything. I don't think he really played all that much. He was having trouble adjusting from the large style ice in Europe to the smaller ice of the NHL size. And, other than that, he never clicked in the Predators gold uniform. And so I wish him nothing but the best of luck in Seattle. I don't like Seattle now because they're better than the Predators are in just their second year, but that's another story. Or at least they beat them this year twice. So one question that keeps getting brought to mind is why your other high profile draft pick of Philip Tomasino of 2 years ago, why he is still in Milwaukee. Okay, you're struggling. You don't know what your players are going to produce on the ice day in and day out. So why not bring a guy who's got a lot of promise, who knows the team, knows the system, bring him in and just let him work. Just let him work. But they don't see it that way. Instead, they keep putting players out there like Cole Smith, who's a fourth line guy. Philip Tomasino deserves to be on the first or second line. It is what it is, and that's what he is. He needs the higher profile players in order to have success because he's a playmaker. These other guys, they're more of your grit and your grind players. They'll hit you on the boards. They do the dirty work or whatever. Now, that's not what Tomasino is, but this team needs scoring. They need something. They need some kind of spark. I'm not sure that's what Tomasino would bring to the table, but it's a start. It's at least showing that you're willing to make things happen. Now, look, I've been saying this every week that it's starting to get down to Judgment Day. And if it's not this week for me, it's got to be next week for the Nashville Predators. But I'm getting close. It's getting closer, and it's getting closer that I am ready to get rid of some of these players. I'm not quite there yet because, like I said, they're up, they're down. They went 6-1-1. Now they're 0-2-1 in their last three. We'll see how this tough stretch goes this week. I think, in my opinion, that this week of the Oilers, the Jets, the Avalanche, I think that's going to be a huge test because they're all Western Conference teams. Two of them are in your division. If you lose to them all, I think it's time to look yourself in the mirror and start making some changes. Before it's too late, before the trade deadline gets here and you can't trade these players away for assets, you need to start looking for the future because the future I'm sorry, is not now. The future is not now. Like I said, I'm not sure if I'm set on this decision. It may be next week, but it's like a 95% positivity that I'm at where I'm at. You make your own judgment. You let me know what you comment in my YouTube comments. Comment on Twitter. Comment on Facebook or Instagram. Let me know what you think. I want to know what your opinions are of this Nashville Predators team. Let me know what you think of the Tennessee Titans. We're all a bunch of fans. We all have our opinions. I want to know yours. Let's converse. So, look, Judgment Day, like I said, is coming. If it's not today, it's going to be next Tuesday. I'm almost there. I'm 95% there. This Nashville Predators team, they're good. They're not great. They're not that good, but they're not that bad. They're there. They're mediocre. They have been for a few years now. They try to get better, but they don't. They just stay mediocre, and it is what it is. I think that's what they are until they decide to make full-blown changes to their team, whether it's coach, GM, or full-on players. I think this team is just mediocre. Well, that's going to do it for today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the Nashville Native. I'm your host, Justin Hawkins. Don't forget, please follow along on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram. Please subscribe, comment below. Let me know what you think. I really want your opinions on any topics that we ever talk about. But, we always have another show. Every Tuesday is my goal for every show. I'll see you next time. Have a good week. And it's getting close to Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas. Enjoy your holidays. I'll see you next week. I'm Justin Hawkins. This is the Nashville Native.